It's my pleasure to welcome Tim Smith from James Cook Uni. So Tim, I take it you're solo?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Tim is going to talk to us about a local grassroots collaboration for the restoration of tropical seagrasses in North Queensland. Thank you, Tim.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. Today I'm really going to bend everyone's mind and I'm going to talk about seagrass and seagrass restoration. This is a project that it's really a partnership between a lot of different groups, and it fits really nicely into this theme because without the community involvement and the local stewardship or the local groups that work on the project, it wouldn't be as successful as it is. And it's really part of the sort of the key people who are involved, ourselves at Tropwater, but also James Epong, who's the Mandubara ranger, and he was going to have come today, but he got called out on country at the last minute. But also the Goondoi rangers and the Gimuy, Wallabara, Udingi rangers, and so I just like to acknowledge those groups and really thank them for being part of the project, and also the Irukandji people, who's also, we work on their land as well, so, and they're part of the project as well. So it's just, yeah. So I'm going to talk about seagrass restoration and how it links in. And so for most people should know that seagrass is really, really important. Particularly it's found throughout the GBR, and it's a really important habitat, not just for in estuaries, but also for the reef. It's a fisheries nursery, so it's really important from a commercial aspect, but also for recreational fishermen. And also it's a food habitat for megafauna, so turtles and dugongs, and so that has cultural importance for a lot of different traditional owner groups. And also increasingly blue carbon it's very important for, and so we're seeing it used potentially into the future for carbon credits. And so I'm just going to give a bit of background to the Tropwater seagrass monitoring. And so we do seagrass monitoring throughout northern Queensland, all the way from Gladstone, all the way up to Torres Strait and across to Weipa. If you have a look at that photo in the middle, or the picture in the middle, there's a whole lot of dots, and that's all the sites that we've been to over the last 30 years. There's a program at all the major ports where we do annual surveys, and so this gives us a really good data set. And some of these data sets at places like Gladstone and Cairns go back over 20 years. So we have really good understanding of what the seagrass is like in these in these locations. And so we use a range of different methods. There's actually Abby there in the helicopter looking at intertidal seagrass, and also put cameras down to look at deeper seagrass habitats. And so what we found over time was that, let's go back a step. Seagrass requires light. It's really important for seagrass survival. So if we have major disturbances like strong cyclones and big flood plumes for long periods of time, the seagrass starts to die off. So around 2010, 2011, we had strong La Nina, we had Yazi, we had Cyclone Anthony, and there was lots and lots of floods, lots and lots of rains over multiple years, and we saw big seagrass declines all across the east coast of northern Queensland. And so if we look at Cairns Harbour, for instance, this map on the left here, let's get everything up actually. If you're looking at it on the left, that's the area of seagrass just out here. So straight out from where we are, at the bottom of each little map is the harbour, up the top is the Barron River. And so you can see up the top corner is 2005, and if we get down to so if we get down to here in 2012, after those multiple years of high flooding, you can see there's only this tiny little skerrick of seagrass left. And over time, it slowly started to come back. And if we look at the biomass of that seagrass, we can see through this period of time here, we've got really nice seagrass and a massive decline. And it's taken 5 years to start to come back, and it's sort of upward trajectory, and it's still not quite back to where it was pre-cyclone in 2010, 2011. So our area is back, more or less. It's still got a few holes, but it's slowly getting back to biomass, but it's not quite back to where it was. If we move a little bit further south to beautiful Mourilyan Harbour, so this is the border of Goondoi and Mandubara country. If we go down there, so this is on a beautiful day, it's a nice inlet, it's managed by Ports North. If we have a look there, in 2005, there was heaps of seagrass. This whole area up here was all covered in seagrass. There's bits and pieces through the channel, there's some up here, and it looks really nice. This is looking back towards the sugar loader. In 2010, we lost all the seagrass. So through those long periods of low light, all the seagrass disappeared, and this is what it looked like. Move forward 10 years, and in 2020, there's still no grass there. So everywhere else, so we saw slowly increases in seagrass in Gladstone, Townsville, Cairns, started getting back up. Townsville only took a few years, but everywhere sort of getting back up to where it was pre-disturbance, except for Mourilyan, and it's really, there's no grass there. So this led to discussions between us at Tropwater, the Mandubara Rangers and James, Ports North, because they're the custodians of that harbour, and also Ozfish, who are a recreational fishing organisation. And so it just started off, everyone was saying, well, how are we going to get this seagrass back? And so we put in, it was putting together a little grant to do some pilot studies to try and restore some seagrass. And so this is James here. We did a few different trials, so over a couple of years, where we put tied seagrass fragments, we put them onto these mats here, we put them onto these bigger bits of Rio. We also tried it on some nuts and bolts. Because we have these issues that we can't actually get into the water, because most of our seagrass is in estuaries, or not most of it, in these habitats it's in estuaries, so there's lots of crocodiles. The mud's waist deep. So we have to find some unique and some novel ideas for how to restore the seagrass, because unlike temperate areas or potentially out at Green Island, we can't get into the water. So it's difficult to collect, and it's also difficult to deploy. So we kind of had to think outside the box a little bit, and okay, how are we going to do this? So we did some trials on different methods. And over time, we started to see some successes. And so this is a little patch. It started off like this, just on some rebar, some few fragments. After 7 months, they're still there. After 25 months, we're starting to get a decent sized patch. So the theory is, if we can start getting some small patches, if we get lots of small patches, then they can grow into lots of big patches, and start restoring the seagrass area in Mourilyan Harbour. So after a few attempts and a few years, we finally got some decent money to try and scale it up. And so this was across a whole lot of partners, organisations, and so this came through the start of last year. And so most of the funding came through BHP, and it's with a whole group of partners. And the really important ones are the ones at the top here, because they're our community partners, really. Everyone else down here is mostly research institutes. So there was a lot of other add-ons, so some ecosystem services, so blue carbon, fisheries impacts as well. But the idea was to restore 4 to 5 hectares in Mourilyan, but also seagrass, fill in some of these gaps in the meadow in Cairns. So we're taking fragments and then we're putting them back out into Cairns, but to try and fill some of those gaps. And so it's a really big job. So it requires a lot of people. And so what was really good about it, or one of the really nice things about it, was that there was a lot of community involvement. So not only did we had the ranger groups, we had traditional owners come on board, we had Ozfish volunteers, we had land care volunteers, we had 4 different schools come through with over 60 students. We had JCU students volunteer, interns volunteer, and so it was really a big community effort. And we had Ports North staff come down, and then also down in Mourilyan, actually one of the local councillors popped in and helped out for a day a few hours as well. So it was really a big community effort, and it really gave a good vibe throughout the the whole process. And the way we did it was we sort of had 3 weeks of collection. So the different steps is collection, which occurred out in Cairns. So we get the seagrass fragments, we collect those, then we process the fragments at university, so they sort of get trimmed up so that they're ready to go to get deployed out. And you can see here, oops, again, there's Manny and Johnny from the Goondoi Ranges. This is the Newman School. This is the school from down at Innisvale. So there's lots of involvement, and it was really good. And then so we deployed the fragments, so we'd go down to Cairns or we'd go down to Innisvale, we'd set up the tents, there was sausage sizzles on one day, and it was just a really good involvement. But it just got everyone involved, helped people understand about seagrass, helped people take that ownership, I guess, for some of it, and it just had we needed lots of people because we ended up planting 8,000 fragments, putting 8,000 fragments out, so we needed a lot of people. And so we built that through sort of these community connections, and everyone was on board. And so this was putting the seagrass fragments out. So that's Jaden from Mandubara and one of the Gimuy ranges. And so moving forward, one of the things that's also been great about this partnership is that it's expanded to include now a seagrass nursery, which we've put in some funding for with Mandubara and Goondoi down in Mourilyan. But also there's potential for one up here with Gimuy, Wallabara, Yidinji, and with Ports North, obviously. And then there's been some mapping and some money with the Cassowary Coast Council to do some seagrass restoration with those guys as well. So it's sort of this whole community, and everyone's opting in to be a part of it. So it's been really good. And so the final question is, how is the grass going? So we've had a very wet season, and this is hot off the press. So just from 2 weeks ago, when we got a little bit of nice weather, you can see here that there is still some grass hanging on. So it's been a big, wet summer, and we thought we'd probably lose a fair bit of it, but there's still a few bits hanging on down there. So hopefully, if they can get through this latest downpour, it'll be there, and it'll continue to grow, and then we'll add some more in this year, sort of August, September, and then we have another year of funding, and we'll have everyone back in to go again. So that's about it. So just a bit of a thank you for everyone for coming and to listening and not being all coral all day.
Thanks, Tim. I apologise, we haven't had a lot of time for conversation in this session because there's been so many presentations, and we wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity to give their presentation. Do we have some questions for Tim? Great. Oh, that's okay. I've got my running shoes on today.
Thanks so much, Tim. I have 1 million questions. But the main one is, how did you decide that tying fragments of seagrass and deploying them that way was the most effective, I guess, method, as opposed to some of the other techniques that are happening, like reseeding and the sandbags and things like that?
Collecting seeds is still a little bit for us up here. There are quite a lot of seeds we've found, but collection, as the same thing again, collection is quite difficult because we'd have to find areas where there's lots of seeds, but we can't get into the water, so we've got to find some way. And that's actually part of this project, and there's another project that is looking at seeding. There's money to do that, so that's part of this season's work, is that that's investigating how seeding will go. One of the final reasons we went just with tying fragments is the simplicity of it, and it's easy just to hang them over the side. We'll be trying to have a play around with some sandbags as well, getting the right sediment conditions and the impact that might have on the hydrodynamics is sort of our concern in those high flow areas around Mourilyan and in that mud. So, but yeah, those ideas have been thrown around as well. But this method seemed to work pretty quickly and effectively. So when we had the mats, like the rebar, they didn't work so well because if it landed a bit this way, all these fragments were out of the water and not on the sediment. So when it's quite undulated in the mud, a lot of they worked really well if they landed in a puddle or in a deeper bit, but if they didn't, or the mesh was sort of a bit skewy, then those fragments got exposed to too much, or they just desiccated pretty quickly and didn't survive. So if we drop the bolts in.
Sure, I would love to talk to you more about this later.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Did you find that, because obviously tying the frags to the nuts and bolts and however you're going to deploy them, they're out of water for a bit of time.
Yep.
That doesn't have any impact on their fitness?
Not that we don't think so. So we'll pull them up and they go straight into a tub when they come out. They stay in the tub. We've only kept them out of the ocean for a couple of days. So they come back to the uni, they get processed for a day, but they're nearly always sitting in water. So yeah, and that's why we trim them up so that they're going to start shooting. So, and we're looking at ways of improving what we select, what we need. So do we need ones with more or less shoots? If we can have less shoots and they're still viable and they still grow well, then that'll be better as well, because we threw quite a few of them out because they didn't hit our criteria. So we need to play around with a few of those things as well.
I can see a good lunchtime conversation happening there. Thank you. Thanks very much.